This session is a continuation of entering lesson plans. This is video 12, which is specifically about actually writing the lesson plan. So this is the meat of what Eduphoria Forethought will do for us in writing the plan. In the previous video, we talked about all the different components of the Eduphoria Forethought application. So I'm not going to go into details in that, but as we look at this workspace here in the middle, this is where we're going to be working a lot when we're actually developing our plan. Now, before we get started, remember you can do this from several views. You can do it from a week's plans, which looks like this. Remember, this curriculum pane that was over here disappears. And if you're in this application, to get back to the daily view, you just select a day and click back, and it pulls you back into this day at a time, plan by day. You can also plan by course. Either way, whichever one works best for you is the way you can plan. Now, also make sure that you're planning on the right day. So it's always going to default to the day that you are on. So if I'm wanting to plan for starting next week, say May 8th, I would have to click on May 8th, and that's where I want to start my plan. Now, as you scroll through here, remember this plan is set up based on your planner, so all the things from your planner are listed here as well. In this gray area right here, this is where when you click, like this is English, period 1 English, it's going to open up your English standards. If you scroll down to your next course, which is English 2, and you click in that gray area, the curriculum pane is going to open up your English 2 standards as well. So let's go back up to English 1, and let's start looking at what we're going to plan for this particular thing. So remember, we wanted you to have all your resources. So you have all your resources here. You have the standards bundled by 9 weeks, identified into readiness, supporting, and process standards. Remember, you can see that with the green, the yellow, and then of course the blue process standards that are listed in this course sequence. Remember, the red dots denote that they are not tested as far as EOC, but they are a part of the curriculum framework. Also, when you're addressing your English language proficiency standards, or when you're developing, you will want to look at your English language proficiency standards and see if there are any of these standards that are being met inside of this particular lesson plan. And for most of them, there are several of them that's being met in most lesson plans each and every day. The other thing is on this teacher resources, the teacher resources provide lots and lots of resources for you. We've talked quite a bit about the instructional activities here. The classroom management pieces, you can generate some ideas. The literature recommendations are listed there as well. The writing rubrics and essay prompts also are listed, and you can look at those. Remember, you can get access to them by just clicking here, and are opening them up by double clicking, and there they are there for you to be available to utilize. I want to go back up to the actual standards, and I want to open up the first 9 week standards, and I want to click on this first standard. Remember, we talked about this window down here. When it opens up, there is the resource. So each of these standards has a standard clarification. And I want to go into a little bit more detail about that in this session, because this is very, very important when you're planning. When you open it up and you double click on it, it lists the standard at the top here. Then it's going to list the TEKS verb. So this particular standard is analyze. So if you're going to put this standard into your lesson plan, either it's going to be a day that you're scaffolding up to the analyze level, or you're going to teach it where they are doing the analysis, because that's the verb that's going to be tested at, because it is a readiness standard. It's very likely to be tested. And so when you prepare them for testing, and when you prepare them for assessment, and when you write your assessment, you're going to want to make sure that they're having to analyze. They have to analyze in the context of words, sentences, passages that precede the specific word, sentence, or passage. Of course, they need to be able to distinguish between denotative and connotative meanings, and those definitions are listed here. And then also it gives you some STAR EOC notes here to think about as you're planning. So this provides you a foundation and framework for this standard of what's going to be expected for the kids to perform when it comes to their English 1 EOC test regarding this specific standard. Now, in the same area down here, if you move over to the Texas flag has even more information for you that is useful. It tells you what associated TEKS are with this particular standard. It tells you what the STAR reporting categories are and what that is. It gives you a knowledge and skill definition. So at your depth of knowledge level 1, your knowledge and skills, this is what is expected. And then if you still have kids that are associated with tax, which we probably don't, but it's still listed here, it tells you your tax correlations as well. This next tab over is a tab where if you are connected to Aware and if you've had assessments in your class over this particular standard, this is where those charts and the graphs and that data for your class would pull up. So you can actually look at all of these clarifying tools in resources, the standard clarification, the Texas information, and or your assessment data from Aware, all right here from your lesson plan. You're not having to go back to different standards. You're not having to go back to different applications. You can move around very easily and get the information you need to know. And then if you need more information, like as in ideas on how to teach that, you can come down here to instructional activities and you can really look at the different resources. They're here listed here under resources. The teacher resources section is not going to have anything inside of the Texas flag or the data flag because there's no actual test over that and there's no actual data because those are things that we put in there for you. So it's all going to be listed there under resources. So I think all that's important. Now let's talk about how to actually start writing that plan. So we're going to assume we are working on the first 9 weeks, and let's say this readiness standard here is the one I want to add. So here in this gray area, if I double click it, you're going to see it populates that standard over here inside of this period for English 1. And maybe there's another standard that I want, and let's see, maybe I also want this supporting standard. So those are the 3 standards for this lesson. Now, let's say I start looking at it and I think, oh, I don't think I want to be able to do both of those standards. I can just right click on the standard and I can remove it from the lesson. It's going to give me a warning, do you want to remove it? I want to go, yes, I do. And so all that's left there is the 2 standards that I wanted. You decide, okay, well, I also want to teach that process standard, figure 19B. So let me go find that process standard and I want to put that in there. So now I have 3 standards, 1 readiness, 1 supporting, and the process standard as well. So that's the way you get your standards in there. That's a very easy, simple way to be able to do that. And they're also bundled by 9 weeks, so you know which section to choose from this particular course. Now, I want to go through, and you can give it a unit title. I'm just going to type something in here. So, say it theme, practice for theme. And then the preparations for learning. The student is expected to know the difference between connotative and denotative language, or something of that nature. And as you return, it's going to keep numbering for you how many ever standards that you want to put in there. Okay, so let's say the 2. Let's say you have another one, and so there you go. There's your 3. The 3 students expected to. Vocabulary, you can look at your resources. Let's say you want to go to teacher resources, and I want to look at my STAR resources because I know that there is a vocabulary. This has my academic vocabulary in it, and I can pull out my academic vocabulary here from this particular thing, so I can just pull it over and have that there. I want to type in my essential question and basically go through and do whatever lesson plan that I want to put forth here in each of these things. Now, I'm going to tell you that you do need to be specific on the instruction activities. Don't put warm-up. We need to know what warm-up it is, because how does it tie in, and connection to previous learning go. Maybe it's questioning. Maybe you have a particular question you want to ask. Maybe it's a note card that you want to have them fill out. Maybe they're going to do something from the board. Be specific as possible when writing these lesson plans. It will help your administrator make a better evaluation when they come into your classroom, and also will help us understand your lesson planning process is so much easier. Now, there is one other tool that I want to share with you that makes lesson planning in this particular instrument very, very simple. And you will kind of see here, it says click here for the checklist items. What we do is we have developed some checklist items of things that should be in all lesson plans, but it's a pick and choose. And so you don't have to write them in, you don't have to come up with them on your own, you can simply pick and choose. So let's open this up. And the first category here is Marzano's instructional strategies. These are the highly effective strategies that most of us have studied as being the most effective way and get the most bang for our buck in instruction. So maybe we're going to use this one, questions, cues, and advanced organizers. That's one that we use a lot. Reinforcement effort and providing recognition. That's something that we do a lot of in our organization as well. Maybe we're going to do some summarizing and note taking. You just pick and choose whichever ones you want. You can choose some, you can choose multiple, whatever your lesson plan supports. The next level here is depth of knowledge level. Depth of knowledge is important because the EOC STAR test is based on a level 2 or higher. So when you're looking at your lesson plan, you need to think about, is it a recall? Is it knowledge level, which is DOK 1? Am I having them actually do a DOK 2, which is development of a skill and a concept? Or am I having them do a DOK 3, which is strategic thinking? It's important for you to think about what you're trying to accomplish, because if we put that particular standard that was analyzed, then that is a DOK level 2. That's the level of analyze. And we need to make sure that our lesson plan supports getting them up to the analysis level. And then, of course, Bloom's taxonomy, it was analyze, was the verbs. That was the highest verb. So maybe we're going to have them remember, understand, and analyze in this particular activity. Now, you may have a standard that says analyze, but we're in the process of scaffolding them up to that level. So sometimes you may have just remember and understand and not analyze quite yet. But at a later date, you would have them at the analysis level. Because we have such a high number of ELL populations and at-risk students, we do have these resources put in here so that you just can click and choose in order for what you're going to do in order to support them. So for our English language acquisition learners, maybe we're going to offer them some sentence frames, which, by the way, those are listed over here in resources under the instructional activities. There's one called sentence frames, so you can look at it. Maybe we're going to model the read and think aloud. And maybe we are going to pair them with a friend or someone who can help them do that, work together. So maybe that's something else we're going to do. So maybe some small group instruction would be the other thing we're going to do in this lesson. So we can just check those and we can move on. Of course, you have your special populations, your special ed. Maybe you have someone who needs visual aids and visual charts and cues, and maybe somebody who needs oral responses. So we're going to check those, that we are going to do that in this lesson. Another area that's very important is this formative assessments. When you get finished with the lesson that day, how do you know they learned it? Are we going to do an exit ticket? Are we going to do a summarization card? Are we going to do some questioning? Are we going to have them make a prediction? Is there going to be a post-test? What are we going to do? Is there going to be a quiz? That sort of thing. So let's say today in this lesson, I want to have them do an exit ticket on their way out, and that's going to be my formative assessment for today. And then because of technology is so proliferative in our environments, in our schools, this piece is here. So we are going to, my activity today is going to have us using a website. And maybe we're also going to use the tablets and iPad apps for this activity. So as you can see, instead of going in and typing all of these things in, you can just click and choose. And it also can be a place to help you launch your brainstorming as, oh, that might be a thought. Maybe I could do it. Maybe as I'm looking at technology and go, hey, I had a website, but maybe I might want to do something around the Plato A+ system, because I can do some flex lessons, or I can use TextQuest, or maybe there's a Google app that will help me do what I need to do. So there's some things that you can look at there. At the bottom of this gray box is the close button, and you click close. And what you will notice when we go up is all those things that you checked now become a part of your lesson plan. It's really nice tool. And so you can do that very, very quickly and select very, very quickly instead of going in and typing each one of those in day after day after day. So it's a really nice and useful tool. Otherwise, you're just going to go through and complete all the pieces of the good lesson plan. And that is exactly what you'll do each and every time. I want to come back to this artifacts piece here, this last section here. You do need to identify what you're going to have as evidence that this lesson went well or didn't go well or whatever. And then you're going to leave yourself notes, basically, saying, hey, this lesson was awesome. I did a bang up job, but might want to change this piece right here. Or this lesson bombed and we need to revamp the whole way this works. That way, when you go back to it maybe a year later or a month later, you can say, oh yeah, I remember that. That was great. We need to do that again. Or that was not so great. We don't need to do that one again, type thing. So that really is the basics of your lesson plan and getting it in there. There is this save button here. You can see that it's shaded out because there is an automatic save portion. But if you come along and let me just add something right here real quick. And you can see the save button becomes active because that hasn't been saved yet. You can click save and that will save it. But if this save button is active, you probably need to click it. If it's not active, it means it's already been saved with all the changes you've made up to that point. So that is basically it in a nutshell, and I hope you enjoy planning in forethought. It was developed so that it would be easy, simple, and provide you the resources that you need in order to do highly effective planning and ultimately delivering high quality instruction. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you again in another video.